Icarus did not fall because he wanted to become a god. He fell during the first moment he ever felt free. For years, he had lived beneath the power of a king. Then his father built 2 pairs of wings. One flight could carry them beyond every wall and every ship. But freedom came with a narrow path. Do not fly too low. Do not fly too high. And when the sky finally opened before him, a young prisoner forgot the warning. The sun did not hate Icarus. It simply did not move aside. The story begins with Daedalus. He was the greatest inventor in Greek mythology. No ordinary craftsman could rival his skill. His statues appeared ready to breathe. His machines turned impossible ideas into physical objects. Kings desired his talent. They also feared what he knew. Daedalus eventually came to the island of Crete. There he entered the service of King Minos. Crete was wealthy, powerful, and guarded by the sea. But the royal family hid a terrible secret. Queen Pasiphae had given birth to the Minotaur. The creature possessed the body of a man and the head of a bull. Minos needed a prison that no one could escape. Daedalus designed the labyrinth. Its corridors turned back upon themselves. Its passages destroyed every sense of direction. The Minotaur disappeared inside. But Daedalus knew the design. That knowledge made him useful. It also made him dangerous. Years later, the Athenian hero Theseus entered the labyrinth. Minos's daughter Ariadne gave Theseus a thread. He tied one end near the entrance. After killing the Minotaur, he followed the thread back to freedom. Some traditions say Daedalus taught Ariadne this method. If so, the inventor had helped defeat the prison he created. Minos responded by imprisoning Daedalus. His young son Icarus was trapped with him. Some versions place them inside the labyrinth. Others confine them within a tower. The exact walls change. The essential problem remains. They could not leave Crete by land. Minos controlled every road. They could not escape by sea. The king watched every harbor. Daedalus looked upward. Minos might rule the earth and the water. He did not rule the sky. Birds crossed the prison without asking permission. Daedalus began collecting feathers. He arranged the smallest feathers first. Then he added larger ones in careful rows. Thread bound the center. Wax secured the outer edges. Slowly, the shape of a bird's wing appeared. Daedalus built 1 pair for himself. He built another for Icarus. The invention was delicate. It was also their only hope. Before the flight, Daedalus gave his son precise instructions. The danger did not exist only above them. If Icarus flew too low, spray from the sea would soak the feathers. The wings would grow heavy. If he flew too high, the heat of the sun would soften the wax. The feathers would come apart. He must remain in the middle. He must follow his father. Daedalus fastened the wings to the boy's shoulders. His hands trembled. The master inventor understood every weakness in his creation. He also understood that staying meant captivity. The choice was not between safety and danger. It was between 2 kinds of danger. Daedalus rose first. The wings held him. He moved above the walls that Minos believed were inescapable. Then Icarus jumped. For one terrifying moment, he fell. The feathers caught the air. His body lifted. The prison became smaller beneath him. Father and son crossed the coast. Fishermen looked up from their boats. Shepherds watched from the hills. Farmers stopped in their fields. They believed the flying figures must be gods. For Icarus, the world had never appeared so large. He was no longer a prisoner. He was no longer walking behind his father's reputation. He was moving through a place no human child had entered. The air carried him. The islands shone below. Every movement of his arms created another impossible moment. At first, he followed Daedalus. Then joy replaced caution. Icarus climbed. His father called to him. The wind swallowed the warning. The boy climbed higher. The sea became a blue surface far below. The sun grew stronger. Heat touched the wax. It began to soften. One feather broke free. Then another. Icarus may not have understood immediately. He continued beating his arms. But wings are not made from hope alone. The frame began to collapse. Feathers drifted through the sunlight. The boy reached for the air. There was nothing to hold. He called for his father. Then he fell. Daedalus turned and searched the sky. He could no longer see his son. He saw feathers floating upon the water. The inventor landed and found Icarus in the sea. His machine had defeated the prison. It had not protected the person he loved most. Daedalus buried his son on a nearby island. The island became known as Icaria. The surrounding water was called the Icarian Sea. The landscape itself became a memorial. Daedalus continued his escape. But freedom no longer meant what it had meant that morning. He carried the knowledge that his greatest invention had killed his child. The traditional lesson appears simple. Do not fly too close to the sun. Do not become so ambitious that you ignore human limits. The phrase still describes reckless pride, but the earliest famous literary version gives the story more tenderness. In Ovid's telling, Icarus behaves like a child before the flight. He plays with the feathers. He softens the wax with his fingers. He does not fully understand that his father is building their escape. During the flight, he is not presented as a conqueror demanding divine status. He is overcome by the joy of flying. His mistake is real, but it grows from wonder, youth, and inexperience. That makes his death more tragic than a simple punishment for arrogance. Icarus had never learned how to live with freedom. He moved from confinement directly into the limitless sky. No practice flight prepared him. No second attempt was possible. He received one warning and one chance. The myth also places a terrible burden on Daedalus. He creates the solution. He explains the risks. He leads the way. Yet he gives a fragile machine to a young person whose excitement he cannot control. Was the flight an act of courage? Or was it the desperate gamble of a father with no safer choice? Daedalus survives, but survival becomes his punishment. He must remember the moment his son disappeared. The story of Icarus is often used to tell people to remain humble, but it can also warn against systems that leave only impossible choices. Minos created the captivity. Daedalus created the wings. Icarus inherited both. The boy did not choose the king's cruelty. He did not choose the design of the wax. He chose only what to do with a few minutes of freedom. And in those minutes, he wanted more sky. That desire is why the myth refuses to die. Human beings fear falling, but we also fear never leaving the ground. Every great discovery asks us to move beyond an old boundary. Every new power carries limits we may not recognize. The safe path is rarely marked as clearly as Daedalus's warning. Even when it is, excitement can make the middle feel like another prison. Icarus represents the part of humanity that looks upward. Daedalus represents the part that calculates the cost. We need both. Without Daedalus, no one escapes. Without Icarus, perhaps no one discovers how powerful freedom can feel. But the sky does not forgive every experiment. The sun in this myth is not a villain. It is a boundary. It does not chase Icarus. It simply remains what it is. The tragedy comes from a human invention meeting an indifferent force of nature. At the beginning of the flight, Icarus is a prisoner. At the end, he becomes a warning. Between those moments, he becomes something else. He becomes the first young man in myth to experience the world from above. For a brief time, he sees what only gods and birds could see. He pays for that vision with his life. Perhaps that is why artists keep painting him. Some show the dramatic fall. Others place him as a tiny figure in a vast landscape. The world continues around him. Farmers work. Ships travel. The sea closes over the boy. One person's catastrophe can be almost invisible to everyone else. Daedalus alone understands what has been lost. So remember more than the final fall. Remember the prison. Remember the father fastening feathers to his son's shoulders. Remember the first moment the wings worked. Remember the joy that made caution disappear. Icarus did fly too close to the sun. But first, he escaped a king who believed escape was impossible. His flight was brief. His freedom was fatal. His name still rises whenever humanity looks at a forbidden sky. It rises whenever we wonder how high we can go.